Hello, and welcome to the Castle Talk podcast, where we talk to writers and creators of today's genre worlds from Denver, Colorado. I'm your host, Jason Henderson, author of the upcoming series Young Captain Nemo from Fievel and Friends Macmillan Books. Tonight, we're talking to filmmakers Bobby Roe and Zack Andrews, co-writers of Houses That October Built 2, which is coming around right now, Halloween season. Bobby is director, Zack is the producer, and they also make up a significant piece of the cast. They have visited a bunch of haunts. The whole point of the movie is that you're visiting haunted houses and things get really complicated. Welcome, guys. I'm so glad you could be on.
Thanks, Jason. We appreciate being on. Thanks for having us.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So, okay, first of all, I got to ask this. I first thought it when I heard Zach speak in the film, but y'all are from Texas, is that right?
We are. We grew up together. We went to Plano
Wow.
Senior High School. Yeah, we go
This
back
is that
25 years.
that actually that's really wonderful. I mean, the thing that's noticeable because I watched both back to back. I watched the houses that October built, and then I watched the houses that October built too. And you can tell it's this is found footage horror. What's really unique about it is it's about this group of friends that are going on a road trip to explore actual haunted houses, and you really seem to have a lot of familiarity and sort of just ease around one another.
Well, that was really important. Well, yeah, the whole group in general, because that really is my brother. That was a big casting decision by us all the way back, starting in 2010 when we started these. Is that we wanted to separate ourselves from a lot of found footage that feels very cardboardy, and it's
Mm.
not truly the actor's fault. I mean, these guys have met, done rehearsals for a couple weeks if they get lucky, and we just wanted to make sure that you got to care about somebody before you kill them. And if you don't
Hmm.
believe what you're seeing
Yeah.
is true, then you kind of lost your audience, after 5 minutes. And so that was really important. I know that I've heard people even talk about, well, they have these inside jokes. I don't get it. Like, what's the point of doing that? And to me, the point is that that this group gets it. You don't need to know the joke. The point is
Yeah.
that these five have inside jokes, and that's
Yeah.
it. And so hopefully that kind of bleeds off screen.
It's funny that
The
you say you watched them back to back because that's actually how it was envisioned by Bobby and I originally. Is we had this larger story, but it kind of all didn't fit into, call it an hour and a half movie. And so we thought that was a natural break as more of an intermission than even an ending for part one.
Right.
And so you're doing it the right way, absolutely. To see them back to back like that is really how we kind of plan it, because they button up together, you know, pretty well as far as, where you're picking up in the second movie. And hopefully you got that experience that we were kind of going for.
Absolutely.
Yeah, how did it play for you? Like playing them back to back like that, did it feel that way? Were you able
Well, I
to
mean, clearly
kind
you've
of
got
that timeline? Did it feel natural?
it felt so you can tell that the story has that there's a break. That they get you have what happens at the end of the first movie, and then you have a slight defiance of that expectation at the beginning of the second movie, and then you jump forward a year. It sure feels real, except that there's an element of self-awareness and even meta commentary where the whole point is that you guys went around to real haunted houses, but you're getting, and I'm going to ask you about this in a second. You're getting into these interviews with real haunted house people, and you're also getting into fights with them, and then eventually you kind of fall into the radar of this evil, I don't even know what to call it, this evil demonic whatever they are criminal organization. And then after a year goes by and you've all been traumatized, you're making so much possible money that you have to go back to the girl who went through the worst of it and go, "Hey, come on back." And she's like, "No, that makes no sense whatsoever." And of course, there wouldn't be a movie if she didn't.
Yeah.
So all of her decisions about coming back are sort of also with a keen awareness that, they're saying we can't make another series if you don't come back. And of course you couldn't do another movie really without the cast. I believed all that. All of that felt like I was watching the making of a series, in
Cool.
fact. And I thought that was really cool.
And we
Cool.
didn't
Right
want,
on.
the easy answer would have been for us to just show up and try to just convince Brandy. And, that's the normal horror movie of, come on, come on. She says, no, no, no. And then finally she says, okay. And so it was
Right.
important for Bobby and I both that she actually says no, and that we have
Right.
to start the adventure without her, because I think that audience will be like, oh, really? Like they're going to do this without her? Just
Yeah.
as a way just to not be so conventional.
They've got four guys. You've got four guys plus this girl and Brandy, and people. The story in it is that she became extremely famous. You all kind of became famous. It's as though Astrid, the girl who made the clothes for the Beatles, had become famous as a fifth Beatle, and then they're going to go back out, and people are like, oh yeah, I'll pay you $10,000, and they find out Brandy's not coming, and they're like, oh well, I'm not interested in just four guys.
Exactly. And well, and that thing to me that's the world we live in, right? I mean, she was this. You could call it. It's not a heroine, I guess, in the first one, but it centers around this girl, like most horror movies do. And
Yeah.
she was the one that was highlighted, and she was the one that was taken to the brink of death. We weren't. Our videos were not seen as hers were. And
Yeah.
so I think that's exactly how it would play out. If she didn't come, they'd start retracting off. And I think she would probably have a different answer from her character because we try to make it that it's money, that it's what it's about for her to return. But I think that her character comes back kind of for her love of her friends, that
Yeah.
she's faithful to them, loyal, and I think that she just doesn't want to leave them high and dry. And
Yeah.
then it bites her in the ass a little bit.
You uh, talk to me a little bit about the real people that are in this, and start with there's a scene where Brandy goes for advice to an actual place that you guys are exploring, which appears to be an old Pennsylvania prison that's been closed, and there's this scientist that you talk to there who has all these theories about fear.
Correct. That's Dr. Margie Kerr, and she's real. Look, almost, I mean, every single person we try to use, whether it's Kobayashi or, this doctor, I had actually read her book. Her book is called Scream. I think it's Scream, the Science of Fear.
Hmm.
And she is one of the few doctors, PhDs on the planet that have a doctorate in fear. And that to me fascinated me. And she goes through these different chapters in the book, and she used to wire people. She would monitor heart rates through haunts and go all across
Hmm.
America. And she's just basically analyzing fear. So we thought, look, this is the type of counselor or therapist that Brandy would need in this situation. Maybe she can convince her and help along the way and be some
Yeah.
kind of sounding board for Brandy's character. So she's very real. That is her job.
And while Brandy's interviewing, I say interviewing, while she's talking to that professor, they're located at that prison, and you guys are just sort of walking around it, and that is what I love about these movies is they kind of feel like a travelogue of different sort of spooky places, especially haunted houses. Which you call haunts, and if that's the new thing, then that's good to know. But you're just sort of exploring that space.
It was
Exactly. We
important
we
to
actually
introduce.
look at
Yeah,
this more of than we look at this
go ahead.
I mean, obviously it falls into the genre of a horror film, but we
Yeah.
actually look at these movies as more of a Halloween adventure, and I think that kind of falls in line with what you're saying. Is it's about showing people and taking people to cool Halloween places that they probably aren't going to get to see in real life. I mean, a lot of
Yeah.
people have the goal of seeing every baseball stadium, and so you're traveling across the country, but like who actually gets to see a game at every baseball stadium? Not that many people get to do that, but you've all
Yeah.
gotten to see Wrigley Field, and you get to see the Green Monster in Boston, all the time on television. And so we're trying to kind of bring that to fans of Halloween and fans of haunted houses to say, hey, there's this really cool zombie pub crawl, up in Minneapolis. You may not get to
Minneapolis.
go, but at least you'll kind of get to experience it with us.
Yeah, tell me a little bit. You went to this place in Perry, Georgia, that is complete with a Washington D.C. Metro train. It has flooded sections that look like, I don't know, Hurricane Katrina, and it's also got zombies. I think. I mean, what was this thing? It is amazing. It's an amazing segment to the film.
Yeah, it's a million square foot disaster training area. People from all over the world, police, firemen, military, they come to train. Like there's that quick shot, we go through the locker room or all the lockers in the hallway of a high school. They're
Yeah.
training for high school shooters. There's the Katrina, the flood bank. There's the subways, the big airplane hangar that they have in there. Like they've covered every disaster area you can think of. Now let's throw zombies on top of it. And it was this fascinating place that I swear to God, we could shoot an entire movie just there because of those
Yeah.
sets. They were amazing. They were absolutely
Yeah.
amazing. That was so much fun.
Wow. You gotta wonder, in fact, if it's actually if it's available. There was a spot that you guys know the Alamo Drafthouse, right?
Correct. Yes.
Hmm.
Love them.
All right. Tim League, about 10 years ago, had an all-night thing where he actually rented the old state school that looks over Austin. It was at one time state school being a euphemism for asylum. That was, and
Right.
it's outside of town, but it looks over. And let me tell you, it was scary. I mean, because he was just using it to show movies in, which was crazy. They just held it like all night. But it was really scary running through one of these spaces. In this case, just a closed a closed hospital. I love these spots that you can find.
Yeah, the location screenings that Alamo's been doing with their road show, I absolutely love. I mean, I don't know if there's a better example of that than what they do with Jaws and put you in those inner tubes and somebody's grabbing your feet while you watch Jaws on a big screen float. I mean, I love that stuff. So anything immersive like that, that's right up our alley. So we've really enjoyed, seeing people do the Halloween version of that as much as they can. We
Yeah.
makes our day.
So did it really happen that in the movie you've got that you've been getting contacted by all these haunts that say, "Hey, come out, film us," and because we'd like to have you guys see our work. Does that is that sort of exactly how you chose the haunts for the second film, or how did this come together?
Some of them. We get emails weekly. Well, we get emails, two types of emails. One, it's been awesome. The haunt community has been great to us, and we hopefully in return they understand this is a love letter to Halloween and haunted houses, and hopefully it brings them business as well.
Hmm.
But a lot of them right after the first one would ask weekly to be part of the sequel in some way. Come shoot here, and we loved it like that, and we ended up using a couple, and it was great. And then some of the other emails we get is about people wanting to join the Blue Skeleton, and those emails are fascinating.
Oh my gosh!
That
Wow.
happens way more than you think, and it's pretty mind blowing. But to us, it's kind of this. It's a very much, I guess, a compliment because they
I think
believe in
it's
what they're saying.
I think it's real. So they're like, tell me how I can hook up with those guys who in theory kidnapped you.
Yep. Yep.
Or there's the third type is, or they want the blue skeleton to come after them,
Oh my
and they
Yeah,
give
god.
us their address.
we'll tell you a real quick story. We got offered $50,000 for a guy to do what the Blue Skeleton did to them. Now, mind you, he thought he was writing to the Blue Skeleton and said, "Come get me. I want exactly what happened to the kids in the movie, exactly beat for beat. Here's my address. Come get me. I'll wire the money to you tonight."
If you could lawyer it up,
Crazy.
there would be
Yeah.
just think
Yeah.
about that actually. if, if you could
Yeah.
lawyer that, it would be so interesting to sell that kind of experience. That was the idea in The Game. Remember the one with Michael Douglas where you've
Absolutely.
paid your 50 grand and they're going to do all kinds of shit with you except possibly not kill you, hopefully. That was the idea. And that's sort of what this guy's talking about. It's like, who can I write a check to? Who will kidnap
If
me
it was
Yep.
and do crazy
1990,
things? And
if it was
yeah.
1996, we probably would have taken him up on it. But in 2016, there just wasn't a way to do that. The law and the legality behind everything these days is just too tough. So 2017 probably only worse now. So I think those dreams are over.
Wow. Yeah. No. Yeah. That is fascinating. Uh, let's see. I
I don't
think
know what
one of my
Zach's
favorite.
talking about. I don't know
Go
what Zach's
ahead.
talking about. I took the 50 grand. He's dead. He's dead.
That
I
guy's
buried him in my
buried.
backyard.
He's
Yeah.
somewhere
As
in the
the
botanical
producer
garden.
of this film, I did not hear that, and I do not even know what he's talking about. That was on his own.
There's this line that you have that I think was it's so sort of spelled out what kind of a nightmare such a project is. Because again, for the listener, if you haven't seen it, the whole idea is you guys have a big RV and you're crossing the country going to haunted houses. And there's a point where you go, look, we still have Hellbent, the Haunted Hoochie, and Satan's Hollow to get through tomorrow. And it's so fun to hear you try to list with this sort of weariness of somebody who's been driving for 18 hours, all the different, in this case, haunted houses that you have to go to, within, just like a day.
Well, hopefully too, what comes across with Zach's character in that scene is from us in the first one. There's so much passion and love for all these haunts, and then I think Zach's character has gotten to a place where it's this business to him because he ultimately has a goal that he needs to accomplish, and there's no way it's
Yeah.
happening without her. And before it was just driven on pure excitement, and in that scene, it's very much all business.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a terrifying moment. I'm not going to do any spoilers other than say this. There is a terrifying moment where they go to bed in their RV and they wake up and everything about what they think is going on around them physically has completely changed. There are so many moments in this film and in the previous film where suddenly they're completely disoriented and it's feels like an out of control road trip, you know?
Right, we wanted to give this
Okay.
some kind of weird Halloween vertigo in that scene where you don't know which way is up. And so just thought it would always be fun to do it the way we did.
One thing I notice about the haunted houses that you go into and the feel of, you know, all these people who are putting these haunted houses on, and they're regular people on the outside. You see them kicking back, backstage with their masks up and they're smoking a cigarette or whatever. But inside, setting the way haunted houses feel, it feels like they look very different from the way I remember them from like growing up in the 80s. There's a griminess and a sort of a glistening bloodiness to them. There's a weird like ironic goofiness to them, like a lot of people dressed up in little girl dresses and stuff. It seems like the whole artistic sensibility of haunted houses has changed significantly. Do you think that's the case?
I think it changes with movies. I think movies are the guides, right? So torture porn
Huh.
is huge in the early 2000s, and then haunts felt like they had to play into that because that's what was popular. But what's really cool now is I don't think there's a winner right now in any form of horror, like like the torture porn. I think these
Yeah.
haunts are having their own identities, which I love. They're most of them that we found that we enjoyed so much were boutique, and they had their own creative their own creative feel, their own creative look, and
Yeah.
so even you see a guy in a tutu screaming at you like you do in the movie, that was their vibe, that's their thing.
Yeah.
And to us, we'd always heard it's one of the weirdest haunts, basically one of the weirdest in the world. It's pretty famous, and we had never done it. Always heard about it. We thought, look, that's the kind of thing I want. I want people to be confident in their theme, and most of these haunts are. So they're doing whatever they want to do, whatever their vibe is, and they're really doing it well.
That's really cool. Actually, I want to ask you something else, which is just about filming around Texas, because you're showing all these places like the Carl's Corner sign, and you spend a lot of time in Mansfield in the first one. And I was thinking, well, Mansfield, I mean, that's like no farther south than Lancaster. I mean, it's not, it's but in the movie, it feels like you are literally in BFE. Like there's no like you're in the middle of nowhere and you're actually sort of smack dab in the DFW metroplex. Was it fun to like go to all these places that had been like part of your mental map all your lives?
Oh, for sure.
Oh,
Because growing up in the
absolutely.
area, I mean, one of the things Bobby and I liked to do in high school was go see a horror film and then go to a haunted house.
Hmm.
And the movie we were seeing wasn't about haunted houses. So, now it's for us, we think how cool would that be to watch the Houses of Octoberville and then get to go to a haunted house.
Yeah.
And
Well, even
crazy,
better though,
crazy.
Zach, you can go to the haunt that we went to in the movie, and that's something that I think is really important and fun that you can't
Yeah.
really do with a lot of other features. You can go experience what we did with those same cast of characters in the same location.
Yeah, yeah. That is a very cool thing. You could watch this movie and take it and kind of take notes from it and go, "Hey, I want to check out that place and that place." I mean, that is a very cool thing about. I mean, I think it's actually kind of a wonderful uh just record of where haunted houses are in this like 4 or 5 years that we're standing in. That's pretty cool. Okay, so the movie is The Houses at October Built 2, if you want to catch House of October Built 1, it is probably on VOD around you right now. House of October Built 2, when does it come out? It's very soon, right?
Yeah,
It
Friday
was out
the
on Friday.
2nd.
Yeah,
All right,
and the first
outstanding.
one is on Netflix actually.
On net. Oh, the first one's on Netflix. Of course. Thank you very much. Okay, first one's on Netflix. Second one comes out this Friday. Look for it. I mean, seriously, it is really cool. It will also inspire you to want to go out with your friends to a haunted house if you haven't done that in a really long time. Bobby and Zach, I am so thankful that you would spend time with us, and I hope people check out the movie. Thank you. Have a great evening.
Yeah,
Thank you
for having
very
us.
much. Appreciate you having us on.
Bet. Bye.